Yeah, dude. Society, the whole world, capitalism. It's just it's all bundled together now. You know. I was pretty optimistic about the protests. I don't think that I don't trust our state legislatures, municipalities, and Congress to actually do shit. Is number one, and then number two, I think some people are taking these legitimate protests into this weird area that I'm not sure that if the majority of people agree with some of the things that are happening right now.
Oh my god, downer.
Not funny, huh?
Not funny. This is a terrible, terrible cold open.
Realpolitik is politics that are coercive, immoral, or Machiavellian.
Mr. McCarthy, you've done enough. Have you no sense of decency, sir?
Begins with one word: realpolitik.
Welcome to Realpolitik, our SpaceX Falcon rocket of knowledge and truth and justice. I am Paul Holden.
Can we be the Virgin Galactic version? I don't want to be SpaceX. I want to go Richard Branson style.
Do they have a spaceship?
Dude, that's what Virgin Galactic is.
But do they have a functioning one that can actually shoot people up?
I think technically he still just has the spaceships, or not the planes that go up really high and then drop you super fast. And then
Dude,
it's like
we
you're
were doing
weightless.
that shit in like the 60s.
Well,
so
that's
boring.
all the Brits can afford these days, okay? So
Those
be
poor
appreciative.
bastards. Also, did you know that the Falcon rocket is named after the Millennium Falcon? Fun
Dude,
fact.
I fucking hate Elon Musk.
That's lame. That's actually points against for Elon Musk for me.
Yeah, dude.
I was kind of mad when I found that out.
I saw a meme today that was like, Elon Musk is the, oh my god, I'm so unique girl of billionaires. And I was like, actually pretty accurate.
I like him. I like him generally, but there's some things that I'm just like, that's pretty lame. Like naming his daughter, whatever he named her, like a barcode or whatever the fuck it was.
Right.
Yeah,
Whatever it was.
it's like Ash 458, like something. She's named after one of his favorite like bomber planes.
Yeah, that's
It's a bunch of stupid shit, dude. And I'm
that's
just,
a meme.
yeah, Elon Musk is turning into Donald Trump for me. It's just like, if I never hear Elon Musk's name again, it will be great. I'm telling you, I just need to go isolate, I think.
You may not be invited to my utopia. I may need to send you out to the mountains for a while.
Nah,
chill.
man, I'm gonna be John Boy. Who was the Greek philosopher who just like lived in a barrel and shit on everything?
That was Diogenes,
Diogenes.
the founder of cynicism.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be the guy like throwing poop on people in the town square.
Well, you know where you can no longer throw poop on the people on? Quite a few
The
Reddit
Chaz, right?
subreddits. Yeah. Couple.
R.I.P. there.
I know, it's so sad. So there's been a series of Reddit purges, and that was kind of top of my list, even though I don't Reddit, but I did think it was pretty crazy. John Boy, I know you're kind of like the internet king. Do you mind giving us a rundown of what's been happening over on the /r/?
Yeah, I'll give you my best understanding. It's really only a cursory understanding because I don't spend a whole lot of time on Reddit. But
That's all we got here is cursory understanding.
Yeah, well, I think we live in cursory.
yeah, keep it shallow. Some major subreddits have recently been deleted or banned among quite a bit of controversy. Most of them are political or political adjacent subreddits. The Donald, which it was the largest Trump supporting subreddit since before the 2016 election, has been a huge presence on Reddit for a long time, but has been kind of digitally quarantined in a way from most of Reddit because its content was not deemed advertiser friendly. And then, similarly, but on the left, the Chapo Trap House subreddit, which was one of the largest subreddits of which was truly leftist rather than just sort of neoliberal in the ideological leanings. Their justification for being deleted, both of them, is because they repeatedly violated terms of service, and there's accusations of targeted harassment and all this stuff. But to me, it's part of it is the Reddit as a tech platform or a Silicon Valley company. It's looking to generate content. It's basically farming content so that it can get advertiser dollars. And these are quote unquote toxic communities that are not advertiser friendly, and that they don't want to present their sugar-coated version of reality, the front page of the internet, to their potential shareholders. So they're curating the content of the website, which is has for a long time been kind of a platform for interesting thought, at least somewhat interesting thought on the internet. And anyway, they're curating it, and they're cutting off the people on the right as well as people on the left, and really leaving only the neoliberal corporatist center for the rest of us to enjoy. So I just thought it was
kind of
interesting
your
that it happened.
extremes, right?
It happened at the same time, kind of a both sides are bad situation.
Yeah. And we've seen Twitter is now doing similar things. Facebook is being forced to do similar things. And I believe even Twitch took down Trump's. I didn't know Trump had a Twitch. That seems idiotic to me.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
apparently there's a Trump Twitch and they took it down.
Yeah, it's happening all across the board. I mean, because Twitter started flagging Trump's tweets, which I think set a lot of this off. And then, Facebook has never really moderated content at all. They started doing it. And then advertisers started pulling out of platforms that weren't moderating well enough. So like John was saying, it's like Reddit starts purging these groups because they were afraid of advertisers pulling out. And it almost felt to me, too, like the news coming out was like the Donald and Chapo cut. And it seemed like they were cutting Chapo and the Donald on the same day just to say, like, oh, look at us. We're balanced. We're cutting the left and the right out at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and the thing is also that we have to remember is that it's like 1,000 subreddits that got banned.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Like those are the two big ones. But like a shit ton of subreddits got banned.
Yeah, a ton. But I've never been on Chapo's subreddit, but like what the hell was on there?
It had more become a staging area for the dirtbag left and not so much about the podcast.
Right. It's just sort of a meme factory, and for left-wing memes. Like a lot of the negative stuff that they claim is like a lot of anti-capitalist death threat type things and
guillotine
violent,
jokes.
Yeah, violent rhetoric and all this stuff. Most of it, the vast majority of it is said in jest, and or at least with a little bit of sarcasm, and that's the nature of these digital platforms, is that anybody can go in posing as a member of those communities and false flag it. You could go in there and post death threats, and then those could be used as justification to get a subreddit removed or get a whole community removed. I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened, but these platforms are made so that digital agitators can take advantage of the systems in place as far as flagging, reporting, and things like that. And so it's hard to know what's true and who represents what. And at the end of the day, these big tech monopolies have the ability to unilaterally decide which voices are in the mainstream and which ones are not in the mainstream. And at the end of the day, we can see that they're beholden ultimately to their shareholders. You know, there's not even necessarily a quid pro quo between, you know, the establishment and mainstream politics and corporate America and Reddit. There's no bribery going on. It's just the natural way that they're functioning as a business, as a corporate entity. It just naturally unfolds this way.
Well, and this is, I think we talked a little bit about this before in one of the previous pods, but this is the symbolic gesture, right? This is what we're going to get out of this protest movement is the, you know, Reddit, Twitter, oh, look at us, we're going to ban some people. We're going to ban speech that we think most of these people don't like, right? We're going to take down the statues. Let's not talk about whether or not, you know, anything just surrounding the statue, but like, that's what we're going to get. We're not going to get real police reform, right? You know, I saw somewhere like New York City is going to take $1 billion this year out of the police department, NYPD, and like that sound $1 billion, right? This is their budget is probably in the tens of billions of dollars. They're like this. They would be like the 7th most populated state, right? This is a gesture. They're gonna take that $1 billion out, and they're gonna get $2 billion next year to make up for it.
That was a lot of shifty accounting to make that number essentially, and it didn't actually really impact.
I think something like just to pay for their personnel is like $6 or $7 billion.
Yeah,
and so this is what we're going to get. It's just going to be a whole bunch of symbolic gestures that I think actually weaken us in the long run.
Well, like, and the biggest issue too is that people act out in this way, and I'm not saying, you know, tearing down the statues are a bad thing. Like, we have the first KKK Grand Wizard at our capital, and like I want that gone.
Yeah,
but
Confederate statue,
that's
bad idea.
Yeah,
but like that's not the core issue.
Yeah, it's not the root cause. It's a symbol, and symbols are important, but you can't mistake symbolism for action or for reform. And that's where the real issue is going to be. Is I still haven't seen any real fucking reform yet. Yeah. But I have seen a lot of people, you know, posting a black box on their Instagram, and it's like, oh, cool, did that make you feel better about your white guilt today? What the fuck did you actually do? Are you actually going to protest? Are you actually calling your congresspeople? Are you actually pushing for these things? Or are you just posting a black box on Twitter because that's not fucking enough?
Well, and that's individual symbolism, right? But I'm talking about systemic and structural, you know, symbolic gesture, right? Facebook and Twitter and Reddit being like, see, look, we're here to help too.
Yeah.
By stifling free speech.
It's a really cheap and cynical way to buy favor from the population and buy support or like sort of run a defense for an otherwise ugly organization. You know, right. It's like all you have to do is do this little bit of sugarcoating with your corporate PR department, and you get a free ride from the left, who has historically been critical of corporate power and private power. And unfortunately, the left is so leaderless and toothless right now. I mean, maybe not at a grassroots scale necessarily, but in terms of an organized movement, that nobody can even make those criticisms in a salient manner.
It's the Democratic Party, the left, is a ship without a rudder. Wherever the wind blows, that's where they're going to head until the wind blows again, right? it looked like the Democratic Party was going to do something about, criminal justice reform and police reform, right? But what's the topic now? Well, something about Russians having bounties on American soldiers. That's it. That's all we're going to hear for about 3 weeks now.
Well, the whole left has ADD. Yeah, and I was tweeting about this earlier today, but it's like, stop going from like gate to gate where it's like Bounty Gate, and then it was Russia Gate, and then it was Ukraine Gate, and Protest Gate, and all this shit. And I'm like, stop spastically jumping from story to story every week, because nothing is ever going to get done and nothing's ever going to change, and you're just like a fucking squirrel.
Want anything to change. This is what they want, dude. They've been doing this with the economy for 3-4 decades now, right? It's called the precariat. You want a precarious underclass who doesn't know when their next paycheck is coming, and it's hard to get even a decent job. Right? It took me almost a decade out of college to start getting somewhat comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, this is what they want, right? Now, the media and the corporate stooges and the fucking politicians, right? This is the playbook. Just keep them precarious. Keep them not knowing what the fuck is going to happen next.
Yeah, have them in a state of constant paranoia and nervousness about the world.
I said like 2.5 years ago, the whole left is just running around at a 7 out of 10, right? So there's nowhere to go when bad shit happens, right? You can only go to a 9.5. Nobody can sustain a 10 for 4 years. Let alone
is doing a pretty good job.
10 years.
John, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just agreeing with Chris that keeping people in this state of heightened anxiety about the political environment and their economic lives makes people easy to manipulate. It makes a workforce that is afraid to lose their job or afraid to step out of line for fear of losing their livelihood and not making it, and it just makes for an easily manipulatable peasant class or underclass. So I think Chris is right. It's totally, it is absolutely in the interests of the oligarchs to keep people kind of frenetic and frenzied about these things.
Well, and it's all just a part of, this culture war that really only benefits the top, where everyone's always screaming about abortions and guns typically, but now everyone's screaming about protests and masks. But guess what just happened with their little sleight of hand trick is that all of these massive corporations are getting these huge bailouts and getting all of their crazy leveraged debt that was creating a massive debt bubble in America that was going to collapse. It's all getting bought out and just absorbed by the Fed. Just trillions of dollars, just click, Fed pushes it out. No one's paying attention to it. And what even happened with the protests, which I think were a very good and important thing and something that needs to be happening more. And what's going on now? Like Chris was saying, Bounty Gate. Everyone's just yelling about the bounties. I'm like, where the hell are the protests still? Like, we didn't fix police brutality and police violence. We didn't fix them just murdering black people with impunity. But apparently, we're just done with that. I don't know.
Yeah, just let's capitalize on some momentum here for something, instead of jumping around like you were saying. And this bounty thing, just to touch on that for a second, as the resident anti-American Russophile, the bounty thing is par for the course for proxy wars. And we've been in a proxy war in Afghanistan since the 80s. And, it's not unusual. These bounties are not unusual. It's something that we would expect in this kind of conflict in that area. So, to get hysterical about this now is just it's rhetoric and it's warmongering. Frankly, I mean, this is another one of those opportunities where the neocons are moving from the Republican Party into the Democratic Party.
That's
Because
exactly
this is
right.
ideologically part of their agenda, and it's just another perfect example of how it's happening.
Well, and here is my question about the whole thing, because I see everyone screaming about it. What do people want done?
Well,
What do people want done? Sanction them? We can't sanction Russia any more than we're saying. Even under Trump. Like, a lot of Obama's original sanctions are still there. They didn't go anywhere. He couldn't pull them back. What do people want? Like John was saying, do they want war? Do we want to send American troops over and start killing Russians? Is that what we want? Do we want to bomb Russia somewhere? What do people want to have happen?
so there's more options than that. There are additional sanctions that we could put on Russians, specifically the Russians who, were engaging with this activity, or there are, additional proxy threats that we could make, be it subtle or overt. I don't think anyone's necessarily calling for war with Russia, but I think they're mostly just like wanting Trump to stop saying that this is a conspiracy and that it's a lie, or to stop just being overly cozy with Putin and Erdogan and all those dictator assholes while he, treats Angela Merkel like shit. That's the establishment line of thinking, I believe.
Trump is an authoritarian, or at least authoritarian light, who likes other authoritarians.
I'm not saying we should be surprised about it.
Troops.
I'm not saying we should be surprised.
And we know this. We fucking know
But
this.
dude, everyone thinks that the next thing is going to be the thing to take him down. It's like, oh, look at this shitty thing he did in Ukraine, or look at the shitty thing he did with Xi in China, or look at this shitty thing he's doing with our soldiers in Russia. And it's just like, the next thing is not going to be it.
Right.
Nothing is going to take him down unless he is voted out. And people need to just chill the fuck out for a second, because like they're always running full speed like a goddamn Energizer bunny. And it leads to them, like we were saying, being very easily manipulated by the news cycle and then immediately forgetting about it and moving on to the next thing. In 2 weeks, Trump is going to say some more crazy shit, or say that we should fucking drink acid or something, and everyone's going to be freaking out about that, and no one's going to remember shit about this bounty stuff, even though it is something that should be dealt with or discussed, and not something that, you should just ignore, what those options are. Just jumping from thing to thing is not going to fucking help anyone.
Yeah. Before we leave Afghanistan, I want to note the greater context here is that the Trump administration is in talks with the Taliban to turn the country back over to Afghan rule and basically pull out troops. And so this is something that has flared up in the wider context of that, because there are a lot of interests who do not want us to leave Afghanistan, who want a continued troop presence in a prolonged conflict in the region. So
Gotta get that sweet opium seed, baby.
Gotta get
Heroin
the
is
sweet
good.
opium seed, and we gotta,
Heroin real good.
Got to continue to surround Iran as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the arguments, too, as to why Putin would be promoting something like this, is that he wants the United States to stay in Afghanistan and wants to kind of just bleed us dry there, which ironically is exactly what the United States did with Mujahideen, who turned into the Taliban later back in the 80s when Russia was in Afghanistan, as we just gave them a bunch of weapons and had them shoot the Russians. So it kind of just keeps going around and around.
Isn't it a little funny that wherever America is a war, we see a pandemic of drug use from that area about 10 to 20 years later?
Well,
Look
in
at
Afghanistan,
Vietnam,
we actually...
Cambodia, that was all cocaine.
Yeah.
That was all cocaine.
In Afghanistan, we promoted the farming of opium as a cash crop.
And what's the pandemic going on right now?
Heroin.
Heroin. Heroin.
Yeah. We promoted it. We told them to do it. We didn't want them competing with our farmers, and what do our farmers not grow?
Gotta
Fucking
get
opium.
that drug money, baby.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. All right,
It's
so
off the books.
it's definitely off the books. And you know who else needs some money for their campaign because they're sinking in the polls? These are getting really bad. These
No,
aren't
that
working
was
well.
a great skr.
Was it? Was it?
No, it was awful. It was
I was gonna say.
it was late night
don't have-
comedy of segues.
You don't have to give it to me. What's up with this airline food? You know.
Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
So Trump sinking in the polls, having a lot of trouble.
So I'm calling this segment "I'm not losing to fucking Joe Biden."
I think that's what's happening right now. But he can't even put a bullseye on Joe. I think Trump's kind of lost his game a little bit. But Chris, do you wanna give a rundown of what's happening?
So this kind of, this has been kind of the undertone theme for about the last week or two. What gate is this? What are they calling this gate? This can't be Russia Gate.
Which gate?
The Russian bounty. Is it Bounty Gate?
It's Bounty Gate, yeah.
Bounty
Yeah.
picker upper.
We just stop using gate.
Just stop.
It's
Please
fucking
stop.
dumb. It's
Please
lazy.
Stop using gate. But before this had really picked up, this had kind of been the, I think, story they really wanted to push because it, supposedly smacks Trump in the face. But these kind of over the last week, there's been some really bad polls for Trump. Now, if you look at 2016, there were a lot of bad polls in 2016 for Trump.
They were all bad polls for Trump.
And that motherfucker became president of the United States. So, I'm not going to get on the, I can't ever get happy about it because my second choice is Joe Biden. Just like I couldn't get happy about it in 2016 when it was Hillary Clinton. It's just like, you just giving me the worst. You just giving me the worst that the Democratic Party has to offer. But let's not go down that road. So one of the big stories I'd been seeing all over the place is how unpopular Trump is, right? He's got historical disapproval ratings, at least in since we started tracking this question. He's at 56% disapproval. So that's kind of been one of the big ones. And I guess compared to other presidents, that's pretty big. At this time, Obama was in the 40s, 45, 46. George Bush was getting into 48. And so right before an election, dude, these are bad negatives on a president, right?
And he's also the only president to never have a positive approval rating, so over 50%.
Yeah. And people have been attributing it to his handling of Corona and the protests and how he's handled those and how he's handling race. And so there's people are using a whole bunch of different, reasons as to why this last poll in particular was so bad for him. And then the other one I've been seeing is the horse race polls, right? The election, if it was, held today, what would the outcome be? And so I used Financial Times because I was like, those Financial Times, those motherfuckers are not on the left, right? They gain more out of anything out of a Republican presidency, right? So they have this electoral college tracker. They have it at 318 for Joe Biden, 148 for Donald Trump. I mean,
oh, that's bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
Joe doesn't even need to get the toss-up states to win this. He's already and listen to some of the states that are leaning. Florida. Now, this is where I thought it was pretty interesting. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. That's kind of that blue wall that we always used to talk about pre-Hillary Clinton, right? Like these biggish mid-tier populous states that have, 10, 15, 16, 20 electoral points, you know what I mean? If you win this state, that's a nice little piece of the pie. And Trump won all of them. So I thought that was pretty interesting that he's kind of losing. And then in the leaning Trump category, this is bad news. Georgia and Missouri being the two that's pretty worrisome. You know?
If you're flipping
and
Georgia.
So that's been like what I was doing was the take, right? That you're talking to your pollster, that's what they're giving you. Right? Look at this, look at this, look at this. So, I kind of was like, I guess Joe Biden's won this thing, right? We're over, right? The election's over, right?
Are you asking?
I'm asking, right?
It's
it's done, right?
So
we're looking at President Joe.
An interesting fact, though, because you're right about polls where all the polls had Hillary ahead. And the new pollster argument is there wasn't really good polling in states, right? So in Michigan and Wisconsin and all that, it was pretty subpar. Everyone really did national polling. So what that led to is the national polling was actually pretty spot on, but turns out the popular vote doesn't fucking matter. It all matters about the Electoral College. So that's number one, and they have beefed up polling within battleground states. And then number two, this was a fun fact I learned the other day. If Joe Biden's versus Donald Trump's polling is off by as much as the Hillary Clinton polls were in battleground state, Joe Biden still wins the presidential election. He's ahead in Michigan by like 10 points. And he's ahead in Florida by multiple points. And in Wisconsin, like these are very wide margins that he's showing right now. And it's a little unprecedented for it to be this aggressive of a gap.
John Boy, your state is considered a toss-up right now.
Yeah, not surprising.
I don't believe that, though. I think it goes red in 2020.
Yeah, Texas goes red this year, I think. But we're so far out. So much can happen and will happen between now and the election.
I was going to say, have we not learned that? Like, just 2020 has been awful in the amount of shit that's happened. Like, it ain't over.
And I'm just not a huge.
We got 5 more months.
I'm not a huge believer in like polling and approval ratings and trying to reduce a presidential race to these kind of easily digestible metrics.
Well, because here's the only poll that matters: the day of the election.
Well, I'm just saying that a lot can happen. Different narratives will crop up. There will be different momentum. There might be something weird happen the day of the election or the week before the election, and right now we're just way too far out to say. So I'm gonna withhold my predictions because I think it's so nebulous at this point.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. I mean, the November election is as far away today as the Iowa caucus was, where Joe Biden got completely crushed and everyone was talking about him dropping out. So there's a lot of room, and these things are just one little moment in time, and they can also be a little inaccurate. So it's not necessarily a sweep right now, but I think the thing that is really pointing to this may actually be a sweep is that Corona is not going to get better. And the Trump administration has proven incapable of putting together a national strategy to the point of actually just refusing to do it, which, a state-by-state methodology for creating, laws and regulations is great. Like federalism is awesome. And, California can try something out and then, Nevada can then do it. And it turns out that it works. It's cool. But that doesn't work with a pandemic. we're way too integrated. We need an actual national strategy to tackle this, and that's why per capita we are one of the worst countries in terms of overall COVID cases, and ours is spiking right now when every other country is sinking, and it's going to lead to. We already have 100,000 deaths, 120,000. They're now saying we may get 100,000 cases a day, and we're going to have hundreds of thousands more people die, and the economy is going to continue to collapse, and we may be on the verge of a depression. So I don't see, like, the only thing that Trump had for him was the economy, and I don't see the economy getting better, and I don't see Corona getting better, and I think that we're either most likely going to see these polls stay the same or potentially even get worse.
So big three, what happens in a Joe Biden presidency?
Big three predictions?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good question.
A lot of signaling.
Oh, dude, that's that's one, right?
That's a given.
That's number one. I mean, that's just generally what's going to happen, right? We're going to get a lot of kente cloth. We're going to get a lot of, this maybe somewhat large symbolic gestures, like we were talking about, like taking the statues down. John C. Calhoun. Yeah, that dude was an asshole, right? These like giant pieces of douche. The guy who like operated on black women slaves and killed their babies in Alabama, and they had like a mural of them up in their state house. Yeah, get rid of that fucking picture. Get rid of that goddamn picture. Okay, I'm not contesting that. I'm contesting that. Is that going to be the only thing we get?
But what happens after?
Useless. Like, we need real systemic reform. And I'm afraid that we allowed the media to grab the reins so much, right? These bullshit politicians like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We allowed them to grab the reins. We're not going to get anything out of this.
All right, I'm gonna give you my big three, and I'm gonna go domestic, international, and then wild card.
Love it.
So domestic prediction. We're going to see a huge rise in the power of the state and the power and alliance of corporate America with the state. So I'm talking tech oligopolies.
We're on our way to become China, right? A state capitalism.
Exactly. We're gonna be moving in that direction. That's well put. Very well put.
That's the worst future.
Yeah, it's the nastiest. It's the nastiest.
That's the worst goddamn. This is why
the worst timeline.
But okay, so we're gonna have that. We're gonna have that, but with a lot of signaling, like you said, but just totally toothless signaling. Internationally, entering into a Cold War with Russia and China both into increased escalations and more conflict somewhere else, a new war, maybe a resparking in Syria, maybe something gets kicked off because of Turkey's expansion. Who knows?
We need something hot, It's got to be hot. You can't just, everyone's kind of like doing things in the shadows. We need some sparks, right?
I mean, that's what they said about World War I, right? Like, these things just happen every couple of years. People got to release their tension through murdering each other.
Now too.
A lot of tension.
Yeah, lots of tension. We could very well be directing it outward, especially if we're in a depression. That's a tried and true strategy. So I'm thinking entering into a Middle Eastern conflict and proxy war with China and Russia. Okay, that's two things. Number three, we're going to see our first female president and our first president, or the first in a while, to resign from office.
Yeah. So you think Joe Biden resigns before the end of the first term?
Yes.
Why? This is a new one for me.
decline.
Because he has dementia.
Yeah, like the guy. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that say people are that really harps on the health of presidential candidates, but in this case, I really think that he's probably not up for the task, and would see it kind of as a great honor for him to be the one to hand off the torch, so to speak, to the first female president. You know.
Well, that's why he was put on Obama.
His true victory is going to be dethroning Trump, and then after that, anything he does is icing on the cake for him.
I think
he saved America.
I think he becomes more of the ceremonial president, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't think he resigns, but he's the guy that, he goes to the party, right? Oh, yeah, we got President Joe at the party doing a keg stand still.
And the Veep
doing
is
push-ups.
He's not doing any of that.
Doing the push-ups. Like the running of the country, dude, he isn't going to touch it. It's going to this is, John, to go back to your, we're going to slowly become China, like, this is all the eunuchs, right? The eunuchs are going to run the country now.
Well, yeah, you're not voting for Joe Biden as president. You're voting for the establishment as president, right? You're like, he's not going to do shit.
Right.
He's going to put a bunch of people who he is tight with, who are all establishment Democrats, into power and on his cabinet. Maybe even Mitt Romney, because look, across the aisle, he's like an Abraham Lincoln saving the country.
Great.
But
dude.
I swear to God, I'm calling that. That's one of my calls.
That's who gets Secretary of Treasury. Mitt Romney.
Fucking Mitt Romney. He's getting something. He's getting something.
Yeah.
But he's not going to actually do anything. He's just going to put the machine of the executive branch back together by bringing in his crew, and he's going to sit back. The man's 77. You know how old Bill Clinton is right now? 74.
Are
Bill
you
Clinton
serious?
is younger than Joe Biden by 4 years. He's
Bill
old.
Clinton looks like a corpse.
Yeah. Think of your grandparent right now and how old your grandparent is, or and then be like, do you want that person running the country? You love your grandparents. They're amazing people.
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I would never want anyone's grandparents to be running the country.
Yeah. Chris, what's your three?
You know what? I mostly agree with all these three. I think between the two of y'all, it's going to be a lot of symbolic gestures. I think things are it's going to be the slow backwards tumble, right? They're moving backwards so slowly, it's hard to tell. And so I think John's right. I think we slip into this oligopoly ran by a handful of corporations, and we're all just kind of like wage slaves, and everyone, it's like a mix of the gig economy and working for Amazon. Well, Amazon lets you work as much as you want. They don't set, but if I'm only working 5 hours a week, every other week, am I going to have enough money to survive? No, it's going to cost me at least 35, 36, 37 just to survive, right? Well, I would like a couple of extra dollars to kind of save up so I can buy that thing off of fucking Amazon. And so it's just, I think that's right. Like that's the world we're getting. And then it's, I think we're in a pendulum swing of the destruction of free speech. We're in a backwards, great leap forward. So to kind of keep on going with the China theme, this is our golden revolution. And though I marginally agree with some of it, that is where I should check my priors, right? So to speak, in the left lingo, is that because I disagree with some of it vehemently, that if free speech is something that we should uphold, I don't know, maybe it isn't. Maybe we should not uphold free speech. I don't know. I don't agree with what you're saying. And I hope that a whole lot of other people don't agree with what you're saying. And let me have some arguments to come up with why I disagree with that statement. I don't know. Was that bad? Can we not talk about free speech anymore?
No, I love free speech. Yeah, your speech is over. You've been canceled.
No, you've just been talking for a while.
You've been canceled.
I'm cutting your speech because we're almost at an hour. I need to get to my 3.
Close to a free speech absolutist.
You've been canceled.
Dude, it feels too close to book burning.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very similar to what's happening online with digital purging. I mean, it's digital book burning. Kind of brings us back to our original commentary about these subreddits going down, and how many pages, how many books worth of discussions were had on these subreddits. You know, countless, and now they're lost. They're lost to history and lost to the world like tears in rain. And it's
ashes
not,
to ashes, dust to dust.
That was a quote from Blade Runner.
That's so dramatic.
Blade Runner, and you got me thinking about a dystopian future where Amazon has like a pyramid that they operate out of.
Oh, dude, you know Bezos is building a pyramid.
Has anyone ever described Reddit subreddits in that way before?
If you don't see that, you're not going on the right
novels being lost like tears.
And I hate Reddit too, so that's coming from.
I don't know what fucking subreddit you're
who's like sentimental about lots of things, and when all that information is lost, it's like burning books at Alexandria.
Yeah. So for my 3, I'm going to try and brighten it up a little bit, but I will preface it with my prediction for the economy is that we're actually going to enter depression. Just looking at the trajectory of COVID, what it's been doing to countries, and the fact that we will have to close down again, and it's just going to drop us deeper and deeper. So with that, I'm going to predict it will be more of a sweep for Biden, as well as more unlikely scenario, but I'm just going to roll with it for this, a flip of the Senate, at which point all these progressive left-wingers who are primarying their, lazy-ass 16-year-old in the House or in the Senate reps and winning, I think that something like a public option is probably going to get pushed through if they're able to hold the Senate and the House and the presidency, as well as to fight the Depression, calling it Green New Deal, or something of that sort to modernize our energy infrastructure.
There's like 6 progressives in the House, and there might be 1 in the Senate. They're not going to get
they know
shit
how popular
done.
This shit is, and they're going to see everyone getting primaried who doesn't support it, and they're gonna get a little worried. So like, all right, what's something we can do? Some sort of public option, right? Give people something. It's not going to be it's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be Medicare for all, but it's going to be a little something. And like some sort of new deal to give people jobs to pull us out of a depression that involves green energy to give them a little something. It's still not going to be enough to fix the problem. It's not like a amazing revolution, but it's going to be enough signaling to get them where they need to be to stay in power.
That's an interesting idea.
They're starting to buckle, dude. You guys start depressing me, so I'm going to go, bright and sunny.
Fair enough.
Dude.
I'm a doomer.
Yeah, they still don't have it in them, man. I don't think the fear of God is actually in it. If Amy McGrath loses in Kentucky, then yeah, maybe. And if he wins in Kentucky,
McGrath running against McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you. But okay, so that's 1.
Well, no, public option, Green New Deal.
Which other two?
And then I really like the Cold War with China thing. I think that's definitely what's going to start happening, especially the way that China's been flexing. So they're getting real wolfy with everything. Expanding into India. They have crushed Hong Kong. They've just stopped pretending like it's a one country, two systems and said, fuck that. We're short circuiting this. It's not going to be a slow, us absolving them. We're just going to take you over and you have no choice. And now they're threatening all protesters with jail. So it's going to become more and more authoritarian. And we're going to, do our thing where we're like, hey, we love civil rights, and human rights, and fuck you guys. So it's going to happen. It's going to be fun.
My international is agreeing with John, but I think it becomes almost Orwellian in that it's like we're at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East Asia. Eurasia is our friends. Eurasia has always been our friends.
Until it flips.
Yeah. I mean, it's already like that. The way that people turned on Russia in these last 4 years when they hadn't thought of Russia at all for the 8 years before that. I mean, we're already at that point, but I agree it's going to get
or all these wonderful dictators who are our friends until we get tired of them and then we kill them.
Right.
So, all right, what are you consuming? Chris, what you got? Got anything?
Let me go. I hadn't thought about anything. Let me go.
I haven't either. Oh, John Boy, you go.
I've thought about something. I'll go ahead and start us off. I had some time on airplanes this last weekend, and I've been reading a lot of what is it? It's Mencius Moldbug, who is the internet neo-reactionary, and his blog is called Unqualified Reservations, and so I've been reading a lot of that. It's good stuff if you're interested in illiberal thought at all, and it's certainly not from a right-wing kind of boomer conservative standpoint. It's from a deeper criticism of democracy and the Enlightenment at large. So if you're interested in some dissident thought, reactionary thought, Unqualified Reservations, check it out.
Boom. Chris, did you think of something?
So I don't know if I've already used this one, but it's worth another mention. I've been reading Shelby Foote's Civil War, and it is pretty impressive, the scope that he's able to go through. And I'm just on book 1. There's actually 3 different books that stretch the whole time period. Just incredible. Apparently he spent like a quarter of a century writing these books. So you can only, the depth and knowledge and history and the way he's able to create a narrative about what happened. It's quite the feat. So and for me, it's actually been a pretty apt read, especially with a lot of these Confederate statues and folks like John C. Calhoun, who kind of, I don't know, maybe he almost slowed down the Civil War from happening because he kind of was the one who compromised a lot of the early stuff, which a lot of those compromises were fucking evil. You know what I mean? Like, you go look at the Union, right? What they were compromising with, and there wasn't a whole lot of, like, reaction in, like, the 1820s, 1830s, right? So, it's just been a really fascinating read. It's a tome, it's dense. So, do be aware when you go into it that, to read all 3 books, you're going to bust out a year probably just because there's just so much there. And I'm already planning on reading something else after I finish this first one. It's just a whole lot. But yeah, so Shelby Foote, Civil War, 3-part series, incredible. If you watch the Ken Burns guy, he's the Ken Burns Civil War documentary. he's on that, and he's the one that's from Charleston, kind of talks like this, and is going to tell you about the Civil War, and that's really who you want to hear.
I love that
about
guy.
the Civil War.
That's that guy?
That's Shelby Foote.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah. So he wrote a giant, giant.
You just got me interested.
Yeah. So that's definitely check it out. And it's incredibly informative. It was just one of those things that, especially living in the South my whole entire life, you hear, you know, especially when we were young, I always felt like I got a lot more of it. You know, I had a fucking government teacher who was definitely like a lost causer, didn't believe that slavery had anything to do with the Civil War, really, and which is, you know, we think about that now, and it's like,
All right, we gotta wrap it up.
That's kind of crazy. So, anyways, go ahead.
Okay. For mine, we did a couple.
You're
books
a real
so
shitbird tonight. You know that,
dude. You're talking really long. That was like 8 minutes.
I'm drinking, so I'm feeling talkative.
I'm gonna have to cut a good portion.
I'm feeling talkative.
Apparently, I
Just
kept thinking
cut out everything that wasn't that Southern accent.
I'm gonna talk like this because I'm telling you about the Civil War.
I kept thinking you were wrapping up, but then you would just keep going.
It's always just to kind of keep on
All
going.
All right, we got a pin in that. All right, so we did a couple books, so I'll do a TV show back to, earning those HBO monies that they send to us. Perry Mason, the show based on the old, like, procedural shit that your grandparents watch. The show is actually pretty good. I've been vibing it. It's only been like 2 episodes, but it's got, what's his name? Matthew Rhys from The Americans in it, and it's very dark and brutal. And pretty enjoyable so far, so check it out. Be a good consumer. Get your HBO Max subscription, okay? Probably through Amazon, and consume, you bastard.
Which big corporation would you want to work for?
SpaceX, because I want to go to space. I hate
Elon Musk fanboy, dude. It's disgusting.
I want to go to space,
Put it back in
baby.
your pants.
He's going to Mars. You don't want to be on that trip to
Put
Mars?
it back in your pants.
Who would you work for?
I don't know. Probably like Taco Bell or something.
That they're not surviving the fucking.
Dude, they're yum foods.
Oligarchy,
Dude. They're
dude.
yum foods. Yum
Actually,
owns
dude,
everybody.
Have y'all never seen? Y'all haven't seen Demolition Man?
Oh, I've
I
definitely
guess,
seen
because
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Taco Bell is the only restaurant corporation to survive the franchise wars. So Taco Bell, we know.
That's
is
right, dude.
It's the one, man. All right, well, this has been Realpolitik. Thank you for listening. We love you. You like the show, please share it with your friends. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/realpolitik. Send your hate mail to paul.realpolitik@gmail.com. That's all we got today, y'all. So, peace out.
Later.
Pieces, people.